nobody really goes to, so I'm on a smaller plane. And everything's going great. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hit this turbulence, just right? And it stops, and everybody looks around like laughing nervously, like, oh. All of a sudden, it comes back with a vengeance. You can literally hear like the metal the plane's made out of, like. All of a sudden, this dude, like 3 rows back, starts making like these bitchy noises, like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not gonna lie, I have never been so fucking scared in my entire life. Dude, that noise is acceptable out of a female or a child. To turn around and see a 37-year-old mustachioed male going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Dude, the hair was standing up on my arms. I'm praying to a higher power. I don't even believe in this shit. I just wish I had the balls to turn around and be like, dude, would you shut the fuck up? Jesus Christ, be a man. Push it down. Push it down. Deny your feelings. Act like you have answers. Do some man shit right now. Do some man shit. Jesus Christ. You know, you think I'm not up here thinking, I am. But how does that help us for me to join you and turn this fuselage into a haunted house? You know? You know what kills me? What absolutely kills me is some woman is gonna fall in love with this guy, marry him, and make half fucking kids. And you know what? We become weaker as a species. We do. Do you remember back in the day when you watched the Discovery Channel? It was about animals. Now they build cars, but it used to be about animals, right? Now it's all car stuff. Looking forward to getting that carburetor today, and the carburetor didn't fit. What do you mean the carburetor doesn't fit? Carburetor doesn't fit. Dad's gonna be mad. How come the fucking carburetor doesn't fit? I just got my fucking there. You know, there's never enough time to build the car. It's so fucking stupid. You gotta have this bus done by Thursday. Or else what? The guy doesn't want it anymore? All right? You'll get the thing when we finish it, okay? This is a safety issue. You want brakes on it? Then go get yourself some fucking lunch. So, before, they used to just be animals. And this is what I noticed. Everything from a lion all the way down to an insect, okay? If you had one drop of bitchy blood in you, none of the females would fuck you. That was it. Your life was over. Your life was over. No ant pussy for you your entire miserable 8-day ant life, because all 6 of your legs shook when the wind blew and the female ant saw it. They're like, all right, stay away from that one. Stay away from that one. He's gonna jeopardize the whole hill. And Stacy, listen to me. Yeah. Human beings have empathy. Some woman will fall in love. Well, he's nice. He wears this sweater. He likes to bake. You know. He lets me finish my stories. Which is all great qualities. Okay? But you gotta know, when you shack up with a guy like that, you're rolling the dice. You're rolling the dice that fucking axe murderer is gonna pick the next house over. Because God forbid he picks your goddamn house. This is the dude who has your back, who's gonna be screaming louder and higher than you when this guy comes through the fucking door. And you're gonna turn around and all you're gonna see is his cowardly feet going out the kitchen window. I don't know, man, that's risky. You know, reality, I'm being too hard on that guy, you know? Yeah, I am, because I was just as scared as he was, except I didn't scream out like he did. And that's simple. The simple reason was this dude, he was hugged too much as a child. Having people go, how was your day? What's wrong? And all of that shit. And I gotta tell you, that was a great thing that my dad did for me. Let me finish before you start blogging, okay? And I end up on a split screen on Good Morning Atlanta, you know? comedy. Can it go too far? Last night at the Tabernacle. Sitting there next to some fucking Cheeto-eating blogger. So, yeah, this is the deal. I'm going to defend my dad here because this is basically what happens when you have a kid. As far as I know, I don't have any kids, but as far as I would think, if you have a fucking kid, what do you want to do? You want to improve on your childhood, okay? You want to keep the shit that your parents did that worked, and then you want to get rid of the stuff that didn't work. So that was my dad. As fucked up as that was his improvement on his childhood that he never talks about, the way a veteran doesn't talk about going to war, you know? So I figure if that was his improvement on his childhood just must have been something like, don't change his shitty diaper. Let him figure it out for himself. Get out in the rain, you shitty baby. Hey, let me handle this, lady. Why are you still standing here, you shit toddler? So, he took it from that and knocked it down to, don't hug him, it's gonna make him gay, right? And then maybe someday I have a kid, I'll whittle it down to like, hey, he's not taking drama class, all right? He's not taking drama class because I said so, lady. Let me handle it. I won't fix everything. Yeah, and that's not a homophobic thing either, that I wouldn't send my hypothetical son to drama class, okay? It isn't. I'd let my hypothetical daughter take a drama class, okay? My son can't fucking do any of that shit unless I'm sending him to one of those fame high schools, you know, where everybody's doing it. One of those creative schools. You go to the cafeteria, everybody's like, cottage cheese, what is it made of? Right? Like, then he can do all he wants. Then he can do all the fuck he wants. But there's no way I'm letting him do that at a public school with those goddamn animals. He's gonna get the shit kicked out of him. He's gonna come home with his underwear up his ass, and then I have to be the adult and go down to the principal and be like, oh, there's some sort of tomfoolery going on around here. I don't want to do that. I want to find the fucking 8-year-old. What is he, this tall? I want to find the kid that did it to my kid, tip him upside down into some sand or a puddle, anywhere where oxygen is going to be an issue, right? And just leave him there. Right? And you wait till that one leg just starts shaking so you know he's down to his last breath. And then you turn him upside down, you're upside right, you grab him by his throat, and you just say something horrific. You ever do that again, I'm gonna beat your mother to death with the family dog. Right? Over. So, yeah, a lot in my life has changed since I last came through here to Atlanta. Yeah, I got married. That's the big thing. Yes, I did. Very happy about that. I'm very happy with that because it was starting to get weird, you know? It's like 45 years old. Oh, my girlfriend. Yeah, we're gonna go out and get some pop, you know? Going to parties, it was just weird. Because I hang out with people my age, you know, and they all got married, they all had kids, and I just couldn't contribute when people were standing around talking about marriages and kids, you know? I felt like a little kid. They're sitting there going like, oh, the superintendent of the mayoral candidate will be bi-coastal, bipartisan with the Middle Eastern crisis. And it's an advanced learning program. The deadline's May 11th. You have to stop the bullying with the superintendent of the mayoral candidate. And a conversation would come around to me. I felt like I was like 8 years old. I'd just be like, did anybody see the YouTube video where the raccoon stole the cat's food and the cat was scratching him and the raccoon didn't care. He just came in like this, like George Foreman. And then he reached out, he had hands. All of a sudden he had hands. I didn't know they had hands. He scooped it up and he ran away on paws. Do you guys know they had hands? Yeah. So now I'm married. So the next move is you're supposed to have a kid, which I would love to do, but I'm 46 years old. I'm just thinking it's too fucking late, you know? Come on, man. I'm gonna have a kid. I'm gonna die of natural causes when the kid's in 5th grade, right? Throwing him a frisbee. We used to use these in the 70s. Do a face plant. My kid's standing there. Mom, Dad's sleeping again. Yeah, I feel hopelessly behind. All my friends have kids. Most of my friends who have kids are cool. But I got a couple of those who think now that they have a kid, like they that I don't understand anything anymore? You know those people? Most basic shit. Hey, man, it's kind of cold out today. Oh, dude, you don't understand. You don't understand cold. So you got a 2-year-old with a mitten up his ass, and you're trying to get chocolate up the other one's face. It's like, all right, I get it. You have a more complex life, but I still understand being cold, teeth chattering. Kind of lets me know, right? Mine just turned 6. Mine just turned 7. I just feel hopelessly behind. You know? So what I'm actually thinking of doing, I'm thinking about adopting. You know? Yeah. Absolutely. Recycle. You know? Yeah, think globally, act locally. Everything doesn't have to be brand new. You know? It's like when you redo your kitchen. You got custom up top, you got IKEA down the bottom. Right? I'd love to adopt. It's a great thing to do. But if I do it, I'm not telling any of my friends. I'm just going to show up with the kid one day just to piss him off, right? Mine just turned 6. Mine just turned 7. I'd love to just show up with an 8-year-old like dominoes. Yeah. Now I get to tell you what you don't understand.
Apologize to him or leave, my wife demanded at dinner, gesturing to our new director of operations. Our kids watched in silence as I calmly nodded and walked out. She thought I cracked. I hadn't. I just triggered something she'd forgotten existed. And before long, her smug smile would be gone forever. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 47 years old, and for the past 23 years, I've been the financial controller at Hendrix Pharmaceuticals. Steady work, good benefits, the kind of career that doesn't make headlines, but pays mortgages and college tuitions. My wife, Victoria, on the other hand, built something flashier. Years ago, she launched Radiance Aesthetic Clinic in downtown Boston, and it exploded. Botox, fillers, laser treatments. She turned vanity into an empire. Within a few years, she'd opened 2 more locations. Not long after, she was pulling in 7 figures annually. I was proud of her. Genuinely. I handled the trust her father established when we married, kept the family finances clean, made sure our kids, Emily and Nathan, had everything they needed. I thought we were a team. That illusion shattered one evening in October. Dinner was salmon with roasted asparagus, one of Victoria's post-client meals when she wanted to feel sophisticated. Ryan Patterson sat across from me, legs casually crossed, sipping Pinot Noir like he owned the place. Ryan was her new director of operations, a title she created months ago for a guy who couldn't tell a balance sheet from a grocery list. Late 30s, perpetual tan, teeth too white to be real. Starting next week, Victoria said, cutting her salmon with surgical precision, you'll report directly to Ryan. I set down my fork slowly. I'm sorry, what? She didn't even look up. At the clinic, we're restructuring the financial oversight. Ryan's going to manage the accounting team, and you'll provide him with monthly reports. Ryan smiled that smooth, practiced smile. We'll make a great team, Daniel. I stared at my wife. Victoria, I'm the trustee managing your father's entire estate structure. I don't work at your clinic. I work with it. Her jaw tightened. And now you'll work for Ryan, unless that's a problem. The air in the room changed. Ryan leaned back, swirling his wine, watching like this was dinner theater. That's absolutely a problem, I said carefully, keeping my voice level. I've been managing the trust for 12 years. Your father appointed me specifically because... Apologize to Ryan, she interrupted, her eyes finally meeting mine. Cold flat. Or leave. Blinked. Nathan, home from college on break, looked down at his plate. Emily, who'd been scrolling her phone, slowly set it down, eyes wide. Ryan raised his glass slightly, that smirk still playing at the corners of his mouth. I looked at Victoria, really looked at her, and saw someone I didn't recognize anymore. Someone who just issued an ultimatum in front of our kids, in front of him like I was an employee she could intimidate into compliance. I nodded once. Okay. She relaxed, reaching for her wine. Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable. I picked up my napkin, folded it neatly, and stood. I'm fine. I'll leave. Her hand froze halfway to her glass. Daniel, enjoy your dinner, I said quietly, grabbing my jacket from the chair. My car keys were already in my pocket. My laptop bag, usually by the door, had been in my trunk since morning. Because I'd known. Maybe not the specifics, but I'd known something was coming. The late-night texts she thought I didn't notice. The conference where Ryan's room was 2 doors down from hers. The way she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring to client events. Nathan caught my eyes as I walked past. I gave him a small nod. He'd understand later. Victoria stood, her voice rising. You're seriously walking out over this? Over a simple reporting change? I stopped at the door but didn't turn around. No, Victoria. I'm walking out because you just chose him over me in front of our children. There's nothing simple about that. The door closed behind me with a soft click. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. I turned it off, started the engine, and drove toward the one place I knew she'd never think to look. The game had changed. She just didn't know it yet. The office parking garage was nearly empty that late in the evening. Just the overnight security detail and a couple of junior analysts pulling late hours trying to impress management. I parked in my usual spot, 3rd level corner space. Not because I needed to, but because I like knowing my exits. That night, that habit felt prophetic. I badged in through the side entrance, the one most people forgot existed. The building hummed with that particular silence only office buildings have after hours. HVAC systems cycling, the distant buzz of fluorescent lights, the kind of quiet that feels expectant. My office was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Family photo on the desk, the one from Emily's high school graduation. Victoria smiling, arm around my waist. That picture felt like evidence from a crime scene now. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, pulled out the accordion folder I'd assembled over the past several weeks. Inside, copies of every trust document, every financial statement, every piece of correspondence related to Richard Blackwell's estate structure. The structure Victoria's entire business empire rested on. The structure I'd managed flawlessly for 12 years. The structure I was about to collapse. I grabbed my personal hard drive from the locked cabinet, disconnected my work laptop, and powered it down completely. My company phone went into airplane mode. No digital trail, no last-minute pings that might raise questions. Then I took the elevator down a floor. Jennifer Archer's office light was still on. She was Hendrix's senior legal counsel, the woman who'd helped me draft the original trust modification clauses back when Richard first brought me on as trustee. Sharp, thorough, and completely uninterested in corporate politics. I knocked twice on her glass door. She looked up from her laptop, eyebrows rising. Daniel, it's late. I need 10 minutes, I said, stepping inside and closing the door behind me. Jennifer studied my face, then slowly closed her laptop. This is about the Blackwell Trust. How'd you know? Because you got that look, the one people get when they're about to burn something down. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. I placed the red folder on her desk. I'm triggering Section 14, Clause C. Her expression shifted from curious to serious in half a second. The resignation clause, effective immediately. She opened the folder, scanned the first page, then flipped to the signature page. You signed this already. Last week, notarized the next morning. Jennifer leaned back in her chair, removing her glasses. Daniel, do you understand what this does? The moment this gets filed, every asset under that trust umbrella freezes. Victoria's clinics, her investment accounts, the property holdings, everything goes into suspended animation until Richard appoints a new trustee. I know, and Richard still has sole authority over trustee appointments. She never amended that when she merged her business assets into the protective structure. I know that too. Jennifer looked at me for a long moment. What happened? She gave me an ultimatum tonight, in front of our kids and her boyfriend. Told me to apologize to him or leave. And you left. I did. She exhaled slowly, then pulled out a legal pad. I'll file this first thing tomorrow. It'll hit the registry by midday. I won't be here, I said, standing. Didn't think you would be. He paused. One question, Daniel. Are you absolutely sure about this? I thought about Victoria's cold eyes across that dinner table, about Ryan's smug smile, about 23 years of building something that she just casually dismantled because it was convenient. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Jennifer nodded once, slid the folder into her briefcase. Then consider it done. I walked out of her office, took the elevator back to my floor, grabbed the single photo of my kids from my desk, and left my wedding ring in its place. The badge reader beeped as I exited. I dropped my access card in the security office mailbox. By the time I reached my car, my phone had a string of missed calls, all from Victoria. I turned it off completely and drove to the extended stay hotel off the highway. The room was small, clean, and anonymous. Perfect. Victoria woke up the next morning like she'd won a prize. I wasn't there to see it, but Emily told me later, texted me the details while sitting in her law school library, furious on my behalf. My wife floated into the kitchen, hair perfectly curled, wearing that navy blue power suit she saved for important meetings. She hummed something cheerful while the espresso machine hissed and sputtered. She even took a selfie with her coffee and her planner, probably for another one of her Instagram posts about boss life, or whatever garbage she fed her followers. Then she saw it. My key card from Hendrix Pharmaceuticals sitting on a marble countertop, right next to the espresso machine, where she couldn't miss it. Beside it, a folded piece of hotel stationery with 7 words in my handwriting. Tell your lawyer I'm done. D. Emily said. Victoria actually laughed. Loud. Like it was a joke. Melodramatic, she'd muttered, picking up the key card and examining it like it might be fake. She'd flipped it over, seen my ID photo, then sat back down slower this time. She pulled out her phone, probably to text Ryan something smug about me not being able to handle the new arrangement, when the doorbell rang. 3 sharp chimes. Too urgent to be a delivery. Too early to be a neighbor. Victoria opened the door with that bored expression she used when she wanted people to feel small. Harold Whitaker, her trust attorney, stood on the front porch. Always composed. Always 3 steps ahead. Except that morning he was running. Actually running. His suit jacket flapped open. His tie was crooked. And he was breathing hard like he'd sprinted from his car. "Ma'am," he gasped, not waiting for an invitation, pushing past her into the foyer. "Please tell me he didn't resign." Victoria blinked. "What?" Harold pulled a red folder from under his arm, nearly dropping it. "Tell me Daniel didn't resign as trustee. Please tell me you stopped him." "He left a note," Victoria said, confused, thrown off balance. "Something about being done." "What are you talking about?" Harold's face went pale. He actually swore under his breath, something Emily had never heard him do in over a decade of family dinners. He slapped the folder down on the foyer table and opened it like he was defusing a bomb. "Do you understand what you've done?" Harold asked, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet lawyers use before they deliver bad news. Victoria stepped closer. "Harold, what is this?" He didn't answer, just pointed at a paragraph on page 3. His hand trembling slightly. "You told him to report to Ryan Patterson," Harold said slowly, carefully. "You gave him an ultimatum in front of witnesses. So he got dramatic and left. He'll cool off." "No." Harold shook his head. No, you don't understand. This isn't about your office politics. This is about the trust, the discretionary marital trust your father established before your marriage." Victoria frowned. Daniel was just a co-signer. Harold looked at her like she'd just said the earth was flat. He wasn't a co-signer. He was the trustee, the primary fiduciary with full administrative authority. The color drained from Victoria's face. "But I control those assets," she said, her voice smaller now. "They're mine." Harold flipped to page 7. "Not if he resigns. His resignation triggers an automatic reassessment and a reversion clause. Every asset under that trust umbrella, your clinic accounts, investment portfolios, the property holdings you merged in for liability protection, all of it freezes immediately." Victoria grabbed the edge of the table. That's not possible. It's not just possible, it's already done. Harold pulled out his phone, showed her an email timestamp. Jennifer Archer filed the resignation notice this morning. It's in the registry. By midday, every financial institution will have the notification. Victoria's coffee sat forgotten on the counter, steam rising uselessly into empty air. Outside, Ryan's car pulled into the driveway. He climbed out, holding 2 Starbucks cups, grinning like an idiot. Harold pulled the curtain shut before Ryan could see inside. "You need to call your father," Harold said quietly. "Right now." Victoria just stared at the folder, her hands shaking. The game had changed, and she just realized she never knew the rules. Before long, Victoria's world was unraveling in real time. The first sign came when she tried to transfer funds for the clinic's payroll. The transaction failed. She tried again, same result. She called the bank, was transferred 3 times, and finally reached someone in trust administration who explained very politely that all accounts associated with the Blackwell Family Trust were under administrative freeze pending trustee reassignment. "There must be a mistake," Victoria had said, her voice tight. "No mistake, Mrs. Carter. We received official notification this morning." She'd hung up and immediately tried her business credit card. Declined. Her personal card. Declined. The platinum card she used for emergencies. Declined. Emily, who was supposed to be in contracts class, had skipped to sit in the Starbucks across from Radiance Clinic's main location. She watched through the window as Victoria paced her office, phone pressed to her ear, her face getting redder with each failed call. Later that same day, the audit team arrived. Not a courtesy visit, not a routine check, a full forensic audit team from Steinberg & Associates. The firm Richard Blackwell kept on retainer for situations exactly like this. 3 people in dark suits carrying boxes of files, setting up in the clinic's largest conference room like they were moving in. Victoria tried to stop them, demanded to know who authorized this, threatened to call her lawyer. The lead auditor, a woman in her 50s with steel grey hair and absolutely zero tolerance for drama, had simply handed Victoria a letter on Richard Blackwell's letterhead. "Your father authorized it," the auditor said calmly. "We'll need access to all financial records, client contracts, and internal communications for the past 18 months. We'll also need the personnel files for all employees hired or promoted since last year." Victoria's hand trembled as she read the letter. At the bottom, her father's signature, bold, unmistakable, furious. Ryan appeared in the doorway of the conference room, smoothie in hand. "Hey, what's going on? Why are there auditors here?" The lead auditor looked at him with the expression of someone who just found a cockroach in a salad. "And you are?" "Ryan Patterson, Director of Operations." "Interesting." She made a note. "We'll need your personnel file and all email correspondence with Mrs. Carter for the past 12 months. Ryan's smile faltered. "What?" "Standard procedure during trust administration reviews." Victoria pulled Ryan aside, her voice low and sharp. "Just give them what they want. It's fine. It's just a formality." But it wasn't fine. And soon it would get much worse. Because that's when HR got involved. Emily texted me the update early that morning. Mom just got called into a meeting with clinic HR and some lawyer she's never met. She looks scared, Dad. Really scared. I was sitting in my hotel room, drinking coffee, reading the morning news. I replied, "Stay out of it, sweetheart. Let this play out." She sent back, "I'm on your side. You know that, right?" I smiled. "I know. Love you. Love you, too." Inside the clinic's HR office, Victoria sat across from 2 people she'd never seen before. A compliance officer from the Massachusetts Board of Medicine and an employment attorney specializing in workplace ethics violations. They had a file, a thick one. Security footage from the Miami corporate retreat. Victoria and Ryan in the hotel bar, sitting close, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he'd said. Another clip. Ryan brushing something off Victoria's cheek. Her fingers lingering on his hand just a second too long. An audio recording from a client dinner. Victoria's voice, clear as day. Ryan's basically my work husband at this point. Ryan's response, equally clear. And I'm the lucky one. Laughter from the table. The client, a conservative investor from a family foundation worth $40 million, hadn't laughed. The compliance officer leaned forward. Mrs. Carter, given your role as founder and CEO, and Mr. Patterson's recent promotion to a position he appears underqualified for, we need to ask some difficult questions about favoritism, workplace conduct, and potential violations of professional ethics standards. Victoria's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The employment attorney slid a document across the table. This is a temporary suspension notice pending the completion of our investigation. You'll retain your title, but all operational authority transfers to the clinic's board of directors until this matter is resolved. Victoria stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. Outside the office, Ryan waited by the elevators, scrolling through his phone, oblivious. Soon he wouldn't be smiling anymore, either. Richard Blackwell didn't call Victoria until the weekend. He made her wait. Made her sweat through days of frozen accounts, audit teams camped in her conference rooms, and HR lawyers asking questions she couldn't answer. When his name finally appeared on her phone, Emily was sitting in the living room pretending to study. She told me later that Victoria's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. "Daddy," Victoria said, her voice small in a way Emily hadn't heard since childhood. "Don't." Richard's voice came through, cold and sharp. "Don't call me that like it's going to soften what you've done." Victoria swallowed hard. "I didn't know Daniel would actually resign. I thought." "You thought what? That you could humiliate the man I trusted to protect this family's assets and he'd just take it." Richard's voice rose. "You told him to report to your boyfriend, Victoria, in front of your children, in front of that incompetent fool you've been sleeping with." "We're not." "I haven't." The audit team found the hotel receipts. Richard cut her off. "Miami, same property, same weekend, rooms 2 doors apart. Don't insult both of us by lying now." Silence. Victoria's face had gone chalk white. "Daniel was the only person keeping your business from imploding." Richard continued. "He managed every compliance requirement, every tax optimization, every legal shield that kept you protected, and you kicked him out over ego." "I can fix this," Victoria said desperately. "If you just unfreeze the accounts, I can make payroll, I can." "No." The word landed like a gavel. "You're not fixing anything. The trust stays frozen until the board appoints a new trustee, and that process takes a minimum of 60 days. Victoria's breath caught. 60 days. The clinic can't survive 60 days without operating capital. Then you should have thought of that before you destroyed your marriage for a man who can't even read a P&L statement. Emily watched her mother sink onto the couch, phone pressed to her ear, tears starting to stream down her face. "Please," Victoria whispered. "I made a mistake. I know I did, but I built this business from nothing. Don't let it die because I was stupid." "I'm not letting it die," Richard said quietly. "I'm letting you learn what happens when you confuse authority with wisdom, when you mistake control for respect." The line went dead. Victoria sat motionless for a full minute, phone still at her ear, before she finally lowered it. Emily stood, grabbed her coat. "I'm going to Dad's hotel." Victoria looked up sharply. "Emily, don't." "Don't what?" "Don't support the parent who didn't cheat, who didn't lie, who didn't humiliate his family." Emily's voice was steady, cold. "I'm done, Mom. Figure this out yourself." She walked out, closing the door quietly behind her. Victoria sat alone in the house she could no longer afford, in the silence she'd created, and finally understood what she'd lost. Soon after, the vultures were circling. Ryan showed up at the clinic with his usual caramel macchiato and that oblivious smile, completely unaware that his world was about to cave in. The HR director intercepted him before he could reach his office. "Mr. Patterson, we need you in conference room B." Ryan's smile faltered. "Right now. I've got the quarterly review." "The review's been postponed. This can't wait." Inside the conference room sat 2 people Ryan had never met. an employment attorney and an investigator from the State Medical Board's Ethics Division. They had files. Plural. Mr. Patterson, the attorney began, we're conducting an investigation into potential workplace misconduct and ethics violations at Radiance Aesthetic Clinic. Ryan set down his coffee slowly. What kind of violations? The investigator opened a laptop, turned it toward him. Security footage played. Ryan and Victoria at the Miami hotel bar, laughing, her hand on his knee. Another clip, them entering the elevator together. Ryan's face flushed. That was a business trip. Was it? The attorney slid a printed itinerary across the table. Because according to this, Mrs. Carter was registered for an HR conference in Orlando that same weekend. Yet here you both are in Miami at a Radiance corporate event she didn't disclose to her board. We ran into each other, Ryan said, his voice less confident now. In rooms 2 doors apart, booked on the same day by the same corporate credit card. The investigator raised an eyebrow. Interesting coincidence. They showed him more. Expense reports he'd submitted for conferences he never attended. Reimbursements for dinners that looked suspiciously like dates. A promotion to Director of Operations despite having zero financial management experience. Here's where we are, Mr. Patterson, the attorney said. You accepted a position you weren't qualified for from a superior with whom you were having an inappropriate relationship. You submitted fraudulent expense reports totaling $47,000. And you did all of this while the clinic was under trust protection, which makes it a fiduciary issue. Ryan's coffee sat forgotten, growing cold. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you resign, the attorney said simply. Effective immediately. You'll repay the fraudulent expenses over 24 months, and you'll sign a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, we don't refer this to law enforcement. And if I don't resign? The investigator smiled thinly. Then we file criminal charges for fraud and let the DA sort it out. Your choice. Ryan signed a resignation letter with a shaking hand. Before long, security was walking him out with a box of his belongings. Victoria watched from her office window, her face blank. By the end of that day, Ryan had blocked her number. His LinkedIn status changed to open to work. That evening, Victoria received notification that the clinic's board of directors was calling an emergency meeting to discuss her continued role as CEO. She sat in her office, soon to be former office, and stared at her phone. No calls from Ryan. No texts. No, we'll get through this together. Just silence and the slow realization that she traded everything real for something that was never there at all. The emergency board meeting happened a few weeks after I'd walked out of that dinner. Victoria wasn't informed until the night before, a deliberate power play by her father that she was too exhausted to fight. Emily texted me updates from the Starbucks across the street. She positioned herself by the window with a clear view of the clinic's third-floor conference room. They're all here, Dad. 7 board members, 2 lawyers, and Grandpa. Mom looks like she hasn't slept in days. She hadn't. Nathan had told me their mother was living on protein shakes and anxiety medication, pacing the house in the middle of the night, making phone calls that went to voicemail. Inside that conference room, Victoria faced the people who controlled her fate. Richard sat at the head of the table, his expression carved from granite. The other board members, investors her father had recruited, business associates who'd known Victoria since she was in braces, looked at her with varying degrees of disappointment and pity. The board chairman, a retired surgeon named Dr. Patricia Haynes, opened a leather portfolio and began reading aloud. Our review identified several areas of concern. First, the appointment of Ryan Patterson to a senior role despite lacking requisite qualifications. Second, undisclosed personal relationships that created conflicts of interest. Third, expense irregularities totaling $47,000. Fourth, conduct that violated the trust's ethical governance standards. Victoria sat perfectly still, hands folded on the table, face pale but composed. Mrs. Carter, Dr. Haynes continued, do you have anything to say in your defense? Victoria looked at her father. He stared back, impassive. I made mistakes, Victoria said quietly. I let personal feelings cloud my professional judgment. I promoted someone I shouldn't have, and I damaged relationships that mattered. But I built this clinic from nothing. I've helped thousands of clients. I've employed 53 people. That has to count for something. It does, Dr. Haynes said, which is why we're not dissolving the company entirely. Victoria's eyes widened slightly, the first sign of hope in weeks. However, Dr. Haynes continued, and that word landed like a hammer, the board has voted to remove you as CEO, effective immediately. You'll retain a minority ownership stake, 22%, but all operational authority transfers to an interim management team. The room tilted. Victoria gripped the edge of the table. You'll also be required to repay the trust for the expense irregularities attributed to Mr. Patterson's fraudulent claims, as you approved them. The payment plan will be structured over 36 months. Richard spoke for the first time. Additionally, the new CEO will be appointed by this board, not by you. You'll have no veto power, no operational input, no hiring authority. Victoria turned to him. You're taking my company. No, Richard said coldly. I'm saving what's left of it. You already took everything else. Emily texted. Mom just walked out. She looks destroyed. Not long after, Victoria sat in her car in the parking garage, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed with a message from the clinic's new interim CEO, a woman she'd hired years ago as Director of Client Relations. The message was polite, professional, and devastating. Please clear your personal items from the executive office. Security will escort you. Victoria didn't cry. She was too empty for tears. She'd lost her marriage, lost her business, lost her father's respect, lost everything. And Ryan, the man she'd sacrificed it all for, hadn't answered a single message in weeks. I met Emily and Nathan for dinner that week at a quiet Italian place in Newton. Nathan had driven home from college specifically for this. Said he needed to see me, needed to make sure I was okay. My kids hugged me like I'd been gone for years instead of weeks. You look good, Dad, Emily said, studying my face. Better than I expected. I feel better than I expected, I admitted. We ordered, made small talk about Emily's classes and Nathan's upcoming finals. Then Nathan set down his fork and looked at me directly. Mom's a mess, he said gloomily. She barely leaves her room. Hasn't showered in days. Just sits there staring at her phone like Ryan's going to magically text her back. He won't, Emily added. I checked his social media. He's already posting pictures with some 26-year-old yoga instructor. Looks like they're dating. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Just a distant, clinical observation that consequences had arrived exactly as predicted. How do you feel about all this? I asked them. Honestly. Nathan didn't hesitate. I'm on your side. What she did was unforgivable. Emily nodded. Same. She humiliated you in front of us. Dad. She chose him over you, over our family. I can't forgive that. You might eventually, I said gently. She's still your mother. A mother who cheated on our father and destroyed our family for a guy who bailed the second things got hard, Emily said sharply. No, I'm done. The food arrived. We ate in silence for a moment. Then Nathan asked the question I'd been expecting. What happens now? With you and Mom? Divorce, I said simply. Already filed. My attorney submitted the paperwork days ago. Does she know? She will when she gets served. Probably soon. Emily took a sip of water. Good. She doesn't deserve you, Dad. She never did. Don't say that, I said. We had good years. We built a life together. She just forgot what mattered. She forgot you mattered, Nathan corrected. There's a difference. After dinner, as we walked to our cars, Emily hugged me again. I'm proud of you, she whispered. For walking away. For not yelling or breaking things. For handling this like a man. Those words, from my 22-year-old daughter who was training to be a lawyer, who'd seen her mother's world collapse in real time, meant more than any victory in court ever could. Love you, sweetheart, I said. Love you too, Dad. Nathan shook my hand, then pulled me into a hug. If you need anything at all, you call me. Got it. I drove back to my hotel. I'd upgraded to a furnished apartment after the second week, and poured myself 2 fingers of scotch. My phone buzzed with a message from Jennifer Archer. Trust board appointed new trustee. Official announcement soon. Thought you'd want to know. It's Richard. He's taking direct control. I smiled. Richard had made his choice. Not Victoria. Not some neutral third party. Himself. The ultimate statement about where his trust lay. My phone buzzed again. This time, Nathan. Mom just got the divorce papers. She's calling everyone crying. Just thought you should know. I set the phone down, face down, and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Victoria was realizing that actions have consequences. That betrayal has costs. That you can't humiliate someone and expect them to stay. I'd loved her once. Built a life with her. Given her 23 years of loyalty and trust. She'd thrown it away for a man who'd already moved on to someone younger. The irony was almost poetic. I raised my glass to the window. To dignity, I said quietly. And drank. The divorce proceedings moved faster than Victoria expected. When you have a clear paper trail of infidelity, fraudulent expense approvals, and a trust attorney willing to testify about fiduciary breaches, there's not much room for negotiation. We met in a conference room in my attorney's office on a cold morning in early winter. Victoria arrived looking like a shadow of herself. Thinner, older, wearing a coat that had seen better days. Her attorney, some associate she'd hired after Harold refused to represent her anymore, looked uncomfortable. My attorney, Patricia Keene, laid out the terms with clinical precision. Given the documented infidelity and Mrs. Carter's role in the financial misconduct that triggered the trust freeze, we're proposing a simplified division. Mr. Carter retains the family home, his pension, and his personal accounts. Mrs. Carter keeps her 22% stake in Radiance Clinic and her vehicle. Victoria's attorney started to object, but Victoria put a hand on his arm. What about alimony? Her attorney asked. None, Patricia said flatly. Massachusetts allows denial of alimony in cases of adultery. We have ample evidence. Victoria stared at the table. I don't want the house anyway, she said quietly. Too many memories. Then we're in agreement. Patricia asked. Victoria signed without reading the rest. Her hand shook, but she signed. The whole thing took under an hour. As we stood to leave, Victoria looked at me for the first time. Daniel, can we talk? Just for a minute. I glanced at Patricia. She nodded and stepped out with Victoria's attorney. We stood alone in that sterile conference room. 23 years of marriage reduced to signatures on legal documents. I'm sorry, Victoria said. For all of it. For Ryan, for the ultimatum, for forgetting what we had. I know you are, I said. Is there any chance, any possibility that we could try again? Start over. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a distant sadness for who she used to be. No, I said gently. You didn't just betray me, Victoria. You humiliated me in front of our children. You chose him over me, over our family. And when it all fell apart, he left you without a backward glance. That's not something you recover from. Her eyes filled with tears. I destroyed everything, didn't I? You made choices, I said, and choices have consequences. What happens now? To us, I mean. There is no us anymore, I said. You'll rebuild your life. So will I. Emily and Nathan will figure out their relationship with you in their own time. But you and me, we're done. She nodded, wiping her eyes. For what it's worth, you deserved better. I know, I said. That's why I left. I walked out of that conference room and didn't look back. Patricia met me in the hallway. You okay? Better than okay, I said. I'm free. The divorce was finalized a few weeks later. I didn't attend the final hearing. Just let Patricia handle it. Emily texted me when it was official. It's done, Dad. You're officially single. I was in my new apartment, assembling furniture I'd picked out myself, building a life that was entirely mine. And for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Months after I walked out of that dinner, I stood in the lobby of Hendrix Pharmaceuticals watching a presentation I'd never expected to give. Richard Blackwell had appointed me as the new trustee, not just of his family trust, but as a senior advisor to his entire financial portfolio. The announcement came with a promotion at Hendrix, Senior Vice President of Financial Strategy. Emily and Nathan sat in the front row of the corporate auditorium, both grinning like idiots. After the presentation, Richard pulled me aside. I should have made you trustee from the beginning, he said. Should have seen that Victoria inherited my business sense, but not my character judgment. She's still your daughter, I said, and she's learning hard lessons about what matters. He paused. She asked about you recently. Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone. I raised an eyebrow. And what did you tell her? That your personal life is none of her business anymore. He smiled slightly. Are you seeing anyone? I thought about Jennifer Archer, the corporate attorney who'd helped me execute my exit strategy. We'd been having coffee every weekend for a while now. Nothing official, nothing rushed. Just two people who understood loyalty and integrity getting to know each other. Maybe, I said. It's early. Good, Richard said. You deserve happiness, Daniel. Real happiness. That evening, I met Emily and Nathan for dinner at the same Italian restaurant where we'd eaten months ago. But this time, we were celebrating. Speech, Nathan called out, raising his water glass. I stood, looked at my kids, both of them healthy, happy, choosing integrity over convenience. To second chances, I said. To knowing your worth. And to the people who stand by you when it matters most. We clinked glasses. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Congratulations on the promotion. Coffee this weekend still on? I smiled and typed back. Wouldn't miss it. Emily leaned over, saw the message, and grinned. Is that Jennifer? The lawyer? Maybe. Dad, she's amazing. Smart, gorgeous, and she actually appreciates you. Unlike some people, Nathan added pointedly. I pocketed my phone. Let's just say I'm learning to recognize quality when I see it. Later that night, alone in my apartment, the one I'd furnished myself, in a building I'd chosen, in a life I'd built from scratch, I pulled out my laptop. Victoria had sent an email a few days ago. I hadn't read it. Hadn't deleted it either. Just let it sit there, unread, a ghost of a past I'd left behind. Now, finally, I opened it. Daniel, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I want you to know that losing you was the worst mistake of my life. Ryan was nothing, a fantasy, an ego boost, a stupid distraction from the fact that I'd stopped appreciating the real man I'd married. You gave me 23 years of loyalty, and I threw it away. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed you to know. I hope you find happiness. You deserve it more than anyone I know. V. I read it twice, then closed the laptop. She was right about one thing. It didn't change anything. I'd spent 23 years being a good husband, a good father, a good man. I'd built structures that protected her, supported her dreams, sacrificed my own ambitions so she could chase hers. And the moment it became inconvenient, she discarded me like I was disposable. But I wasn't disposable. I was valuable. And now I was free to build something with someone who understood that. I opened my phone, scrolled to Jennifer's contact, and sent a message. Looking forward to this weekend. Maybe we can make it dinner instead. Her reply came moments later. I'd like that. I set the phone down and looked around my apartment. Small, clean, entirely mine. This wasn't the life I planned, but it was a life built on self-respect, dignity, and the knowledge that I'd rather be alone than disrespected. Victoria lost everything chasing a man who didn't value her. I gained everything by walking away from a woman who'd forgotten my worth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something better without them.